Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome again as we continue our considerations about the church. Today the question being, where was your God when you were suffering? Which is an excellent question and a very human question that merits our reflection and an answer. Before we look at this, I want to just read you something quickly from St. Paul, where he says, "All who are guided by the Spirit of God are sons of God. For what you received was not the spirit of slavery to bring you back into fear. You received the spirit of adoption, enabling us to cry out, Abba, Father. The Spirit himself joins with our spirit to bear witness that we are children of God. And if we are children, then we are heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ, provided that we share his suffering so as to share his glory." So in answering this question, the simplest answer to give is, where is your God when you are suffering? Is that he's with you. He is with you. Christ suffers even in us. There's a beautiful moment in the Gospel of Luke that you probably remember very well. When Jesus is being crucified, there are two criminals, one on either side, one good and one not so good. The one challenges Jesus to say, if you're really the Son of God, escape this suffering. What's the point? Save yourself and save us too, since we're here with you. But the good thief says, you're wrong, to the other man. We deserve what we've gotten. We deserve this suffering because we've done wrong. He's done nothing wrong. And then he turns to Jesus and says, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus responds, I tell you truly, this very day you will be with me in paradise. And so the tradition of the church has always taught that this thief was the first man to enter heaven with God. Because he was good? No. Because he accepted his sufferings and laid them in the hands of Jesus. We look at Jesus himself on the cross, his cry to his Father, my God, why have you abandoned me? Even Jesus experienced this terrible feeling of being abandoned by God. And yet, he is God. He is the Son of the Father, one of the Trinity. How can God not be present where his Son is present? And so this is the difficulty, is that we find it so hard to live through suffering. And yet, suffering is part of this life. In the beginning of Genesis, when we read about the fall of man, we find something very interesting there, that God sends these punishments after man sins, of suffering, of needing to work, of having difficulty. Why? Because if we didn't suffer, where would we go? We wouldn't even search for God. If everything was perfect, everything was good, what need do we have for God? And yet, suffering is for us a medicine that reminds us that there is more, that there is a life with God that is perfect, for which we yearn and we strive. And we can get lost in our suffering sometimes, to think, oh, how much I suffer, oh, this is too heavy for me, this is too difficult. But we see in Jesus a different logic. He offers his suffering for the salvation of the world. On the cross, Jesus wasn't thinking about himself. He saw my face. He saw your face. He saw the faces of all for whom he would die and save. So my friends, we need to really enter into this dynamic of realizing that God is with us in our suffering. And we can even turn to the natural level. Even St. Paul speaks of this, is that when a woman is in labor, the difficulty, the pains are terrible. But she knows that a child will be born into this world, which gives her joy to go through these difficulties. In the same way, we need to see our own sufferings as the birth pangs, the pain that we have to go through so that we can be born into heaven as sons and daughters of God. And it gives us something to offer to God. Say, Lord, I will be obedient to you. I love you. Take this that I suffer. I know that you are with me. I know that Christ is with me. I offer this to you for the salvation of others, like Christ who showed me the way. And so we profit from our suffering instead of letting it block us. And God knows that we're weak, but we ask the strength of the Holy Spirit to suffer in faith, that everything we offer to God becomes a blessing for ourselves and for others. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Amen.